Baruch Hashem, we're holding in the Torah, and we're shpatziring. You know what a shpatzir is? Shpatzir means l'tayel. It's like a walk plus. Sometimes when you're walking, it's like, I gotta get from here to here. When you're shpatziring, you're sort of exploring. Right, Avi? You're meandering, you're shpatziring. We're shpatziring through Mar-a-Lago. We're shpatziring through the palace. We're going on a journey here through these Torahs. And we mentioned yesterday the whole inyan of birth. The inyan of giving birth. The inyan of understanding that birth is not pashut. And that in order for the birth to happen, what do we need? What's necessary for the birth to happen? A dam. We need the dam. What happened? And where does the dam come from?
The legs.
That the legs become cold and icy because they're putting all their energy to where? To the womb. And that once they're shoitfin, once they push on the womb, then what happens? The baby comes out. Lu Yitzur. Would it have been that there was no dam that was pushing on the womb? That would be dangerous. And therefore, is the tsar bad? Is the tsar a bad thing for the womb? It's a necessary thing. Is it a good thing for the legs, love? Say about the legs. Are the legs chaser? Yeah. At least for a certain amount of time, the legs are chaser. The legs are missing their dam. Of course, there's some. They're not going necrotic, but God forbid. But they're chaser. They're mitzdananais. They're chaser. But do the legs gain in the end?
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, they got a baby. The whole matzav is leibedik. Everyone's happy. There's a baby. It's mazel tov. It's wonderful. And then we said after the baby comes out, so the talucha sadam, the regular circulation, and talucha we said is halacha, the regular circulation goes back to normal. Normal is Yiddish for normal. There's a lot of those, by the way. So,
what if it good just stop restricting circulation for it to come back after?
Saying when a person would go like this and So what does he get from that? I understand when the circulation is restricted because is it restricted or it just went somewhere else? Here it's just stam, he's cutting it off. This is that it's losing here in the legs to go here to bring out this. That I'm losing the circulation, or I would say the circulation is going somewhere else. It's pushing in order to bring out a leda. And if the leda is not going so well, then we need hoida and we need halacha. And that's how we began this whole section. We need hoida. Then we began yesterday that this whole inyan of what we're talking about, of bringing a leda to the world, of bringing out a new birth. Now, birth doesn't just mean a child. Birth means a new energy into the world. We ended yesterday by saying when the world was birthed, was there any greater leda than that? The birth of existence, of finite reality. So if by a birth there's a halacha, so then what was the halacha of creation? And I saw also in the Rishimas that when Mashiach comes, it's also going to be a birth. So what's going to be the halacha? What's the new chiddush in halacha? It's going to come out when Mashiach, when that new reality of Mashiach is birthed to the world. What's going to be the chiddush in halacha? Adam has a chiddush.
The chiddush that when we're in the pregnancy right now in this world,
yes,
like we're in the birth pains of.
We're
in the pregnancy.
Ikvisa de Mashiach. It says that Ikvisa, we're in the Chevle Mashiach. Chevle means literally what they call the birth pains of Mashiach.
So when Mashiach comes, that's when we're born.
That's right. Humanity as a whole is still in the womb. we're still in the womb in a certain way. That's a very deep thing. We've played in this room a number of times, A.B. Rottenberg, Journeys. I only found Journeys, when I met my wife. I didn't grow up with so much Jewish music. Some, but like not the classics, like they say. So, if you look up A.B. Rottenberg Journeys, there's a song called Conversations in the Womb. Anybody hear that song before? You heard it? Yeah, Pasha. You heard it also?
Here, I think we played it.
We played it. I played it probably 2 times in this room over the last maybe 8 years. The whole side of the song is that there's 2 twins. There's 2 twins in a womb, and they're having like a shmooze together. And they're schmoozing, and one of them says like, "Oh, it's going to be nifla, like we're going to get out." And like, you should know, like this matzav right now, the situation inside the womb is only part of the story. We're about to get out and be born. And the other one's like, "Why are you so fickle and so like? There's nothing else. Like this is it. There's nowhere else we're going." And the other one's like, "Why do you talk that way? We're going to a much more beautiful place than you could imagine. Like this is wonderful. I got a great chavrusa here, but we're going somewhere else. We're going to be born." The other one's like, no. And all of a sudden, they feel the chevle leda. They feel something is happening. And all of a sudden, the other brother, the first brother, the positive brother, exits. And the brother who's still inside says, "Oh my goodness, I lost my brother. He's gone forever." And the song ends is that he doesn't realize on the other side of one saying Mazel Tov. And that's also an analogy of death. That a birth, we think that this world is like it. We're in the womb right now. Death is a birth. Whatever we think this world is, the Chevle Mashiach of leaving this, it's just a transition. It's a transition to the next phase. As if to say that whatever this big old world we think we're in is just a womb compared to what we're going to be born into. If this is just a womb, imagine what the birth is. Mashiach is also called a certain birth. Well, imagine what the next phase is going to look like. Like, this is pretty amazing. Life's great. Imagine what the next... So yes, we're getting shaken right now. And before a birth, there needs to be a tsar. This is all post-Adam eating from Eitz Hadas Toivara. So now the world feels like the shaking is happening, but it's necessitating, it's bringing out a Leda. Yeah?
What was the correlation yesterday to Torah learning?
Oh, then we went to Torah learning, those that support Torah. So then we started to get into the Tomchei Araisa. The Tomchei Araisa, the people that are Tomech, that donate to support Torah learning. So we said the Tomchei Araisa, like the legs. The Zohar says that Klal Yisrael, and really humanity, is like one body. And that body is comprised of different parts. The legs of the body keep the whole body up. And furthermore, help the body make moves. They take us places. So the legs of the body, spiritually speaking, are like those that give tzedakah. Those that are supporting Torah learning, that are allowing Torah learning to be stood up. It's hard to build a base medrash if you don't have a nickel or more. So those that are giving Torah, that are giving money, they're standing up. And they're allowing that scholars and Chevera here, right now, every single cottage cheese downstairs for breakfast is that you have Tomchei Araisa. They're fueling the machine here that we should be Machadish and Halacha. So all those that are building and supporting Torah, so we said they're standing up Torah. They're allowing the Chiddush and Halacha to come out, right? because their money's going towards people steiging it up. Imein kemach ein Torah. But we said temporarily they're losing, right? Why are they losing?
Money's gone.
The money's gone. But afterwards we said the money comes back. And there's a Leda. And they birthed new halacha into the world. So they get their money back. Now it's interesting to me that Rav did not talk about this, because you always have to know in Mineu Bay, when you're exploring a palace, so you have to know why Rav Nachman did not choose certain chazals. I would have thought that he would have mentioned chazal that ma'aser kedei shetis ashir. When you give ma'aser, it says the more you give, the richer you'll become. And ma'aser is one of those areas where Hashem says you could test me. I mean, if you ask an accountant, if I give away money, will I have more or less? So, it's basic math, you'll have less. But Hashem says no. The math doesn't work that way when it comes to charity. The more you give, the more you'll have. Because the accountant may or may not realize that where does all the money come from? From Hashem. So Hashem's cheshbon works different when it comes to giving charity. The more you give, the more you get.
How does that work? Isn't it on Rosh Hashanah? Isn't our income set for the year?
Oh.
So how if I'm giving more, I'm going to get more. I have a set income.
Even though our income is set on Rosh Hashanah, there's certain things that are outside the system. Such as Shabbos. It says it's what you get, what you have for the whole year. That parnasa mizonos shalodam is kotzim Rosh Hashanah ad Rosh Hashanah ad Yom Kippurim. Whatever you have is going to be Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. That's it. Except Shabbos. Whatever you spend on Shabbos, the more you spend, the more you get. Which sounds like if you're stingy on Shabbos, chas v'shalom, Hashem takes away money. So it looks like this amount sort of fluctuates depending on certain mitzvahs. The money you spend on teaching your kids Torah, that would include tutors. Yeah, but he charges a high price. It's reasonable, but it's high. Yeah, good that it's high. You'll just get more money.
It works the same way as Shabbos?
Same way as
Shabbos. Outside the allotment?
Yes.
Wow.
Rosh Chodesh as well. Yom Tov and Meiser. Meiser starts to change the system. Certain mitzvah things change the system. Reb Dan?
What about for your own Torah learning? You know?
For your own Torah learning. So it's interesting because it says to your children. So maybe you could say chiddush like this, that if it is that I'm teaching myself, that I will be able to teach my children, so it is for my children. Meaning if I need the Torah myself, because how am I going to teach my kids? This is really an investment in my future. This is an investment in my kids, in my peiros. Isaac?
I have two things. One thing is like kind of off of what you just said. You mentioned an idea the other day that the entire Jewish people is like one. So maybe giving to your kids is like giving to yourself, because Torah learning for part of the fall is like for everybody. I don't know, if that would extend to everything, right? Like to give your wife a present, like, oh, my wife is me, I'll just get myself a present every day,
That was the Homer Simpson thing, right?
Oh yeah?
Because if only I, knew Mishnayos, that's what I say, like Simpsons episodes, like Girsa the Yankasa, like what you learned when you were young. So I can't ever forget this episode that it was Marge, I think her name.
Yeah, sure.
It was her birthday. So it was the same time that the newest bowling ball came out. That was like in some glass case with like lights shining onto it. And he's like, I think they call it like the diamond. And he was like, and they're like, you can't, never, and all these like rich guys were pulling up and the diamond. And Homer's like, and then for some reason, I think he took all of his money, like all of his like back savings, and he bought the diamond. And then he brings it home and he's like, my wife's birthday. He's like, I want to present you with a gift. And he's like, this is for you. I love you so much. I don't know if that was the gears that he said that, I love you so much. He said, this is for you. And then she opened up the thing, And she said, this is not for me. I said, of course it is. And she sees the ball and says, just like, Homer. It's not for you. He said, if you don't want it, I'm happy to have it. You know, Ishto Kagufo, you know.
It's so funny.
So you have to be honest. You
Right.
have to be honest.
It's so funny. But yeah, so the other thing is like that's really funny. The other thing is about the birth pains, right? How Gog and Magog, from what I understand, that's like the biggest birth pain, right? That's the birth. So
It's the biggest pain.
Yeah, it's pretty poshut that like Mashiach is not here right now, right? So meaning up until now, we've been having what we call contractions.
Oh, yes.
Right? So if the Holocaust was a contraction, what does that mean for the actual birth? Will it be worse than that? Like, can we take worse than that? Like, what's
It may be that
is it a guarantee
those are
that it's
definitely
gonna be worse?
No, it could be that in the time frame of things, 80 years is not so long. In the whole time frame,
It's part of it.
it could be that this is the baby's coming out. Like there's a certain push where it's actually not. Once you get the head out, really the shoulders, it kind of comes pretty quick. So that pretty quick, it's still not comfortable, but it doesn't have to be the real pushing to get get the head. I see the head. It's the crown. Shoulder. That's where it gets stuck a little by the shoulders. So it could be that was one of the but then it comes pretty quick. So it could be that 80 years is still challenging, but we're close. We're close.
You could also say that in a certain sense, not in a physical way, but I'm saying in an emotional, mental way, there is like a bigger darkness nowadays too.
Yes. Yeah.
So
We're in a very, it's not simple. It's not simple. There's a lot of anxiety. How much anxiety is there? It's like how much, it's, the world is trying to get healthy again. We're trying to bring health back to the world. It's a very, back in the olden days, it was like more straightforward. Like they're just like a pogrom. Like just, people were pretty much bari, like takin, but there was people that wanted to kill them. Okay, another pogrom. Okay, weiter. Now, the Haskalah did a lot where it really made the war happening in here. And the Chedushei Arim, and I think this really will go to your point, Malkiel. The Chedushei Arim said, the entire war of Gog and Magog can be fought and does not have to be anything physical. The entire war of Gog and Magog, Rabbi Shema was talking about this, after the whole war of Gog and Magog, Chedushei Arim, could be fought when a Jew is trying to have kavana when he says Kriyat Shema.
yeah, makes sense.
Because the Chedushei Arim, that the war of Gog and Magog, the war in my mind of not being able to focus at that second, that's the war of Gog and Magog. That if we could fight that war and actually have kavana when we say Shema, we will win the war. Now that's a war. I'm giving myself Musar. When was the last time a real good kavana in 6 words? Like I'm saying, real kavana. Specifically, you need kavana there. You need kavana. At least that you're doing a mitzvah deraisa of Shema. Kasher tziva Hashem. That's a big war. That's like mamish, the psychological warfare that comes in at that second. Shema. Just stay locked in. Stay locked in. That's a deraisa, Shema. It's a deraisa mamish. No, shofar. That I'll try to have some kavanah for. What Shema? Shema? A few minutes we're going to say Shema. Shema? Deraisa. The whole war of Gog and Magog is in Shema. That Chidush Aram changed my life. That was the way that we could fight the war. No weapons. That it's a psychological warfare. Now, what's the force that's trying to manipulate my brain not to say Shema with Kavanah? Which means know that God is one. Amalek. That's the war. It's in our brains. We don't need to take up arms. It's in here, the war. Yossel.
Isn't it true that Rabbeinu teaches that the greatest weapon of a yid are his tefillahs?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's Shema.
Wow.
I have a question. If it's a little bit like too off topic, then like all good. But what's like the deeper meaning behind Shema? Because it's obviously like a lot more packed into those words. And I have difficulty saying it because like, hear, O Israel, there is one God. It's like, why am I
I don't know what
everybody?
O means. I could tell you that. O.
Ours,
Large O.
It's so weird. Why do you do that?
I think we're doing a lot of healing in the translations. I was in a shiur on Thursday nights with a certain tzaddik that we worked on Shema for 6 years. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Aliyah Vod. Okay, 49 letters. We were working on it for 6 years. I'm barely understanding what Shema is, but it opened my eyes up to how big Shema is. Shema is about unity consciousness. It's about really seeing the Achdus HaPashut in the Pu'ulus Mishtanos. This whole Torah is about Shema. This whole Torah is about Shema. And it's a constant mitzvah, by the way, which is the mitzvah of Yichud Hashem, of knowing God's oneness, which is the mitzvah for humanity, not just the mitzvah for the Jewish people. It's a mitzvah that we're here to share with the world. And when LeBron gives you a call, as the whole messianic process is unfolding, and he says, Isaac, could you teach me about God? So Shema is a good place to start. And the idea is that Shema doesn't mean hear, it means understand, internalize, meditate upon, go into, experience. Shema is a word, Shema is really experience. In Yiddish we say don't hear, but der Herr. Der Herr means to like verstehen, to really go in, to journey into a universe of experiencing that Hashem Elokeinu, that the same God, that's Elokeinu, that seems to appear as multiplicity, is Hashem Echad, is all one. Don't be fooled by the illusions, it's all one. And that's something that you walk around with. And 2 times out of the day, you go to a place where you're completely in that world. The chiddush is that even davening could continue after that. The Baba Sali would say Shema and spend half an hour just in meditation. Just experiencing oneness consciousness. It's all about seeing that what you think is so separate is not really separate. And then you go deeper into all the analogies that Chazal used to understand that oneness. So then we were speaking about the Toimchei Araisa, which are the ones that are supporting Torah. And then we said afterwards they get all of their dam. They get all their dam and damen. They get all their money back. And they get a leida. And they get a leida. So let's look inside. In the beginning, they're losing their money. When they give the money to a Torah scholar, they don't have it. That the legs have become cold. On page 78. Afterwards, through their money, Shemachzikin Talmud Chacham, Noilad halachas. There's a birthing of halachas. Shehein bechinas chesed, which is kindness to the world. Now there's more Torah in the world. There's more clarity in the world. Chesed is clarity. When the Rosh Yeshiva gives a psak, there was a recent shaila. I asked somebody had their bike stolen, and they had on the television, the closed circuit. They saw that the thief left his bike there. So the shaila was, the guy said, "Could I keep his bike?" He stole my bike, but he left his. Okay, his is a bit shvach. It's not a great bike, but I need to get around a little bit. So can I keep his bike? So he didn't know. So the Rosh Yeshiva said, yeah, he was mafker it. When he stole your bike, he was mafker his bike. He made his bike ownerless at that moment. So you can keep it. That's chesed. He didn't know what to do. He has a bike there. And he's like, I got to continue living. What do I do with his bike? So the halacha was you can keep his bike. That was a chesed. He now gave kindness to this person who now knows what to do. The halacha is, he made his bike ownerless, he stole your bike, he then, by virtue of the fact he left his there, if he wanted to keep his, he would have kept his and taken both. But he left it there, he's making it ownerless, you can keep it, you can be zoich in it. That's kindness. That person knows what to do now.
This week's parsha, Moshe's judging and telling people what they can and can't do.
That's right. The whole system of Yisro and setting up the Sari Alofim, Sari Meos, Sari Chamishim, takes us back to Nun Vav, is a chesed. It's a chesed. You know what to do. And now, the Aza al de hashpoes ha-chesed, choyzer v'nismalei chisaron. Through the blessing coming into the world, it restores that which was lacking. Okay, this idea, nismalei chisaron, is something very, very important to keep in mind when you're going through the Torah. This idea of something that was lacking getting filled. So keep that all in mind. The next connection Rav Nachman's going to make is an obvious connection of something which was lacking and becoming filled, where Rav Nachman says, this is the pleasures of the world to come. Now we have to understand, what are the pleasures of the world to come have to do with filling the chisaron? So Rav Nachman says, this is the idea that when Mashiach comes, v'haya or halavana ka'ora chama. The prophet Isaiah says that when Mashiach comes, that the light of the moon will become like the light of the sun. Now, if I were to ask you, you could ask your 3-year-old, which is more powerful, the sun or the moon? So what are they going to say? The sun. It's obviously more stronger light. Well, there's a backstory. You have to go back to the beginnings of Ma'aseh Bereshis, where we are taught, the Gemara talks about in Chulin, that there was a machlokes between the sun and the moon. Not quite between the sun and the moon, but the moon came to God and said the following idea. Now, this doesn't mean that the physical rock of the moon started talking. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the angelic force behind the moon. In the same way that we were talking about yesterday in the 3:15, that people who do moon dance or rain dance or sun dance, they're not dancing to a ball of fire. They're dancing to the spiritual malach, the angel above that, that's governing that energy. So the energy behind the moon, so to speak, was communicating that energy. And the energy of the moon said to Hashem, that how could it be that Shnei Malachim Mishtamshim Bekeser Echad? How can 2 kings wear 1 crown? There's 1 crown, the king of the constellations. There's only one. There's only 1 crown. So how could we both be with 1 crown? So Hashem said to the moon, because of your question, I'm going to be mismayit. I'm going to shrink your power. Seemingly, I'm going to give the crown to the sun. That will be the ultimate power in the sky. And the moon will only get its energy from the sun and reflect it to us. It won't be an energy source of itself. I one time heard a Rebbe say that essentially what Hashem said back to the moon is said, who said you're a king? Meaning your whole question of how can two kings wear one crown? Well, who said you're a king? You took that as like an axiom, as a hanocha, that you're a king. Well, slow down. And shrunk the moon. And now the moon only gets energy from the sun and reflects the sun energy in a diminished way. But when Mashiach comes, so Yeshayahu says that the ora levana ka'ora chama, that the light of the moon will be as bright as the sun. Now, one thing you see for sure there is that there was a chisaron in the moon. Something happened to the moon. There's a chisaron. This is all spiritual. And when Mashiach comes, it will be nismala chisaron. So link this back into the Torah. Wait a second. So how is this like the Toim Chayaraisa? They give away their money. That looks like the moon, all of a sudden. But in the end, they'll become ora levana ka'ora chama. And how is that like a leda? In the leda, Yarach Hashem, it's tananis, that the legs no longer have. All of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, Rabbeinu, like, I gotta start working this stuff out. You start walking around with this. Wait a second. The ora halevana, that's gotta be like the legs. Because it's lacking something. It lost something. So it lost, but in the end, it's gonna get back. So what was the leda? What was born from the moon's taina that made it lose its ore, made it lose its dam? Also in this, the light would be compared similarly to dam, that the moonlight lost dam. And that's the damim that the Toim Chayrais are losing. So where is this happening in a cosmological sugya here? And that when Mashiach comes, so the Or HaLevana is going to be somehow, the Toim Chayrais, we say, get something bigger back. They get their money back, and they get a Leda. They brought chesed. So what chesed is coming up? Hanem ala asid, and this is all talking about lava ki halavana tiva kar, because the nature of the lavana is kar, is cold, like the legs that are cold. Bechinas chisarnu krirus, which also is interesting. It sounds like cold implies something bad, and warm implies something good. But we learned towards the end of the Torah that when the heart warms up too much, so what happens? The reya, the lungs, are supposed to cool it down. So is the cool bad or is the cool good?
It's good. Just enough.
Over here, it looks like it's bad. It lost something. Is Yarach Hashem Mitztanis a good thing? Is the Ora Levana being, it's a Chisaron, a Krirus. V'asida lismalois ka'ora chama. And then in the future, it's going to become varm again. Is it good to be cold or hot? So both. But it looks like there's like an interplay here. And what's the shemen? Is the shemen cold or hot? It's not even one of those qualities. Dry, moist. It is very interesting interplay, the whole Torah, between cold, hot, dry, moist. You start like turning this over in your mind. Each place, like there's a ma'ila and a chisaron. There's something good about it, and there's something challenging about it. Bechinas milui achisaron, shezeh bechinas haylada. That's called a birth. Interesting. Milui achisaron is called a birth. When I fill a lack, just like a birth happened when the baby comes out and then the dam goes back to the regular talucha. But is that the milui chisaron? The milui chisaron, why is that the haylada? The milui chisaron is when the dam goes back to the legs. The birth is the milui chisaron, or just when the circulation goes back? Circulation. So the milui chisaron, why is that a birth? I understand that a birth, that one of the totzaot, that something that comes out of a birth, is that naturally there'll be a milui chisaron. Or is the milui chisaron when the or ha-levana becomes like a sun again? That's itself a birth. What's the birth of the milui chisaron? What's the birth of the milui chisaron? Bechinas halachas. And that's halacha. Because the halacha that's coming out, which is birthing new things, the halacha is the milui chisaron. I can understand when a person doesn't know what to do. It's a problem. Once he has a halacha, without the halacha, he's chaser. He doesn't know what to do. You teach a yid a halacha, Shavisi Hashem l'negdi tam. Yizgaber ka'ari. Wash your hands in the morning. Redeem your firstborn donkey. Oh, taka. Now I know. Ada chisaron, and now it's a milui chisaron with the halach. So you just, the layers of this, I said yesterday, I thought this Torah was very short. It's very long Torah now. It's very long. I saw a ruby on the wall, and I touched it, and it was really a button, and I'm in a new place in the palace. And this is the pleasures of the world to come. So what's the milui chisaron of the world to come? What's the milui chisaron of the world to come? Yeah.
When neshama's returning back or becoming one with God again, meaning it feels like what it means by the milui chisaron is birth, is that when everything returns, you're a different person, right? A mother suddenly takes on upon all of these responsibilities, and they're taking care of the child. So even though the blood is the same blood, the person that she was before and afterwards, I think it's similar to when you do teshuva, how you become a different person. So too, when you create something, it changes you as a person in a way. So I think it's the rebirth of a person with new responsibilities and new insights and new ways of connecting to the world and connecting to God by having created this child. So when we take upon a new halacha, it's a new way to connect this metaphysical reality and to connect to Hashem on a different spiritual plane that we couldn't before. So if I'm washing my hands, like halachos is all about infusing God into your daily life. So the more that I'm able to do that, and the more that places like the Mission of Brura teach me how to infuse that into my daily life, the more it's like I'm being reborn. It's like it's filling the blood back into me. Like what the angel taught you, whatever it is. It's like, it's satiating my neshama and bringing me,
It's the milui chisaron. First of all, you're such a breast lover. It's amazing how you see Rabbi Nachman in such a clear way. So it's the milui chisaron. I liked your first example of the woman who's giving birth, that the chisaron, not just in the legs, but the whole leda itself is now, I didn't have this child, so I was chaser. Now I have this child. I'm like a mother. And now I'm a mother to two. And now I have more responsibility. I'm chaser without that. There's a level of being chaser that now I've become a greater person, a more full person. And the halacha that you mentioned, that I'd never thought about, and that's very deep. is that really when I was in the womb, it says the angel taught me the entire Torah. And you had a ner doilak al rosh v'mad misoifa olamad soifia, the or agonas mamish, you could see the entire world. So I come out into this world and I'm chaser, I forget. So every halacha is not just a milui chesaron in that moment. I didn't know what to do, now I know the halacha. I'm actually relearning the whole Torah, the milui chesaron of all the Torah that I had in the womb, which is called a Torah kula, and the shashu olam haba is that I'm going to mamish get everything. The whole of olam haba is just going to be milui chesaron after milui chesaron, milui chesaron, ad infinitum. Because it seems that I mamish learned it all. That's the way it seems in the womb. It says you learn mamish kol Torah kula, but then you forget it. So you have the rishimu. But then into olam haba, I'm going deeper and deeper and more milui chisaron. And that's the halacha, that's the halicha of olam habas. I'm just going deeper and deeper. Avia.
I think it could be that like each level is a milui chisaron, means that, I think this is what he was trying to say actually, was that it's getting closer to Hashem. Each level of getting closer to Hashem, and every time a person is learning the halacha and actualizing the halacha, it's not just like higher in the new relationship. Each time it's like a whole new relationship. So it's like a whole new birth. Because if you don't say that, so then in the womb, there is no practical like learning something new in order to know what to do, because the person wasn't born yet. I think that what he's saying is that the actual, besides for the learning itself, the actual relationship with Hashem is a whole new birth, a whole new level, a whole new life.
In the olam haba.
In both worlds, meaning even
in the womb also.
In the womb also, and in this world, when we connect to halacha and we sort of like live that life with that halacha, we're becoming a different person. You know, like a whole new responsibility, a whole new relationship, a whole new, and that's a new. The milui chisaron. Right.
And it's a new birth. It's also a birth. Every step is another birth, which is another milui chisaron. It's like.
So that itself to me is like a type of theory, because a chisaron, by definition, is not a birth. You're lacking it, and you have something that's taken the place, so it's not a new birth. That whole idea, to me, is whatever. But if you're just being a milui chisaron, it's not a new birth, because you're just being. The
milui chisaron is a birth? Or is
I'm having a little bit of a hard time with that.
By a birth, there's a milui chisaron, right?
So the way that I can understand it is because there's something missing in the world that this child was needed for.
That's the way the Lubavitcher really talks about birthdays.
Okay.
Is that the world needed you. The world could not go on without you.
Right.
And therefore this day is very significant. The world could not continue without you. And that's something to celebrate.
Right.
But we're saying that for the mother, and that's what Isaac was talking about, the mother is also a milui chisaron, is that now I'm a mother. I was missing something in my responsibility, in my avodah, that this child is here to help me to become something greater. Makil.
I guess just something like more simple, something how I saw it, like from my perspective, was that when it comes to, I guess, birth in general, like before the whole process started, everything is just very unclear. When everything's painful, unclear, you don't know exactly what's happening, you can't focus on the positive outcome all the time. Once it happens, you start to understand why everything before was a bracha. And why everything was so amazing, and it gives us clarity, and it gives us the ability to have Haidah in the first place. So that's why, like for example, Shaishua Mahaba, the pleasures is understanding what we went through and the accomplishments that we went through, and being able to think for all the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put there.
Everything that led up to this moment.
Everything that led up to it. You're able to go back and see.
It led to this birth.
led to this birth.
Even all the birth pangs and all the morning sickness and all that. But look what I have.
Yeah.
That's definitely the
Same with
Haggadah.
money and what's it called? The Baal boss giving the money to the Torah, saying he's losing the money.
Then he sees, look what I built. He comes, he sees the new building. He sees all the Torah being learned. He's like, all these cost money. But now he sees what's happening with it. And he sees, it was all worth it. So there's the Milu Chisar in that. And he sees the Leida of all the new halacha and the chesed.
Milu Chesar, that's that. And also, I guess it was like the same thing, just being able, you're lacking just clarity in general throughout this world. Something that's not filled, something that we don't understand. It's like the big thing of just like, the big question of like why these seemingly bad things are happening, which is the chisaron. Like we know it's good, but part of the chisaron is seeing exactly why it all is good and lines up perfectly. Which in Olam Haba we'll be able to look back and see all the bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us, then we're able to give a haida because we're able to. It's just very clear to us how all these things were good.
They were all milui chisaron. I thought they were so bad, but they were filling something in that I needed.
Filling something in, and at the same time, we're getting that chisaron that we actually had in this world, just on a more simple level, like a chisaron of clarity, of understanding why all these things that were good the whole time, meaning they were always there. It was always miloy. It was just meaning the chisaron was the fact that we recognized that it was miloy.
I couldn't see it, but in Olam Haba, I'll be able to see the milui of what appeared to be a chisaron.
Yeah.
But it was so much more because it led to a leida. It built me. It helped me in wondrous ways.
Yeah.
These Torahs it's beyond. Just one more line in this. V'zeh b'chinas ela told us hashemayim va'aretz b'hi baram. So the Torah says these are the toldos, the offspring of heaven and earth, b'hi baram, when they were created, which was a leida. Toldos is a birth happening. B'hi baram, so Chazal say, is the letters be'avraham. It was all to get to Avraham. Avraham is chesed. So when there's a leida, it's all about Avraham, who's ish chesed. Hainu chesed ki ha'iloda al bechinas halachas she'em bechinas chesed. I just want to see one more line that we see to get to Daled. V'zeh bechinas mizmor l'soida, and this all is what it means that we sing. King David is singing a mizmor, a song of thanks. Hariu la'Hashem kol ha'aretz. Let's make music. Let's sound music. All the land. L'soida, of thanks. So Reb Nachman just says something very nifla and beautiful. L'soida, mizmor, l'soida, we're about to say. Oisius toilada is the same letters of giving birth. That the thanks is already giving birth. L'soida is toilada, to give birth. Hariu la'Hashem kol ha'aretz, Rasha Tevis halacha. Halacha. Kemuva. Ki halachas bechinas toida. Hein bechinas hailada. And then he ends with one interesting part. And then next week we can get into the whole part about emes, and really to go over this. V'zeh she'amru Rabbi Yisrael zechoin lebracha. This is what Chazal said. Asa, who was the king, Chola al raglav al she'osa anagari b'tamidei chacham. That this was a long sugya, is that Asa, instead of allowing the tzaddikim to be learning, he pulled them into other service. He didn't appreciate there was different roles in Klal Yisrael. And he was trying to pull the tzaddikim into certain areas outside of learning. Which means he was holding back Torah from coming into the world. There's 12 tribes, which means there's all different roles. And it's almost as if to say, you know what? Wouldn't it be great if my heart was my ear? I think your heart's supposed to be a heart, last time I checked. And your ear is supposed to be an ear. No. Are you bigoted? Are you racist? Come on. Don't be a heart. What, you think you're better? No, I don't. I just think it's important that we have a heart in the body. Like, that's the way it works in a normal system. No, I have nothing against ears. I actually love the fact that you're part of me and you have we're fine. We're fine. We celebrate the diversity. We celebrate the fact that there's an ear and there's a heart. And let the heart be a heart and the ear be an ear and the leg be the leg. We're cool. Everything is fine. So Asa, who wanted to start making hearts into legs and legs into ears, and he started to move this around. So where was he stricken? So Chazal say that he got leg illness, because he was preventing the energy from going to the heart to produce the halacha. He was cutting off that energy. By the way, if you really learn Torah properly, you start seeing how all the things that happen to us in healing and health and physiology are connected to some mitzvah and some very important idea. And to pay attention. It's not stam that person's finger or their hand is hurting. Ki alidei she'asan garya b'talmidei chacham bit the loisim and halachas. Alidei zeh chala es raglav. Ki halachas hem bechinas tikun v'kiyam b'haraglayim. He was not holding up and helping the heart. Ki halachas hem bechinas taluchas adamim she'chayzim v'holch geseder k'nei la'el v'asa she'pogam bezeh. He made a blemish in this area that bitel is a talmidei chacham and halachas al ken chala es raglav. He was stricken in his legs. So in summary, what did we see today? We saw that we want to fill the milui chisaron. We want to be able to have the or of the levana become like the or of the chama. We saw the tamchei eraisa, the toimchei eraisa that are giving money, and they're helping that there should be a birth of new halacha into the world. That they're not only going to have the damen, the money come back to them, they're going to be that force which is birthing chesed and goodness into the world, the chazdei David. And we saw that this is the power of Eila Toldos HaShamayim Va'artz Bihi Baram Be'avraham. It's all to bring out Avram, to bring out chesed into the world. And we said this is Mizmor L'Soida, L'Hoylada. This is the halachas, and we saw that Asa, who made a problem with the Talmidei Chachamim, bringing more halacha into the world, he was stricken in his legs because he wasn't giving the ability of the tzaddikim to bring Torah into the world, so his legs were affected. We should be zoicha, my dear friends, to be the toimchei araisa, to be those that can support Torah, to be those that can produce Torah in the world, to be those that can help milui chisaron, and that once and for all we're going to see that the ora levana, which is a female energy, will become ka'ora chama, that this is the power of the feminine growing stronger in the world right now. That we're going to see that the ora levana, that the feminine energy will become great and powerful once again, but maybe not in the way that we might think. It will be a power that's even greater, because it says, Eishes Chayil Ateres Bala. A righteous woman is the crown of her husband. She's even higher than her husband. And to know that the female power in the world will be so beautiful and so wondrous, that it's going to be a messianic era of the female power of the Shekhinah, that the Shekhinah's light will come and fill the world. We should be Zoicha Mamish. That Deas Hashem Yamale Haaretz Kamayim Liyam Chasim. Deas Hashem Yamale. It's going to fill the Chisaron. Kamayim Liyam Chasim. We should be Zoicha this. Amen. Amen. Oh Yahweh Sheinu Matov Elkeinu Manayim Baram Mamay Yahweh Sheinu Matov Koyim Manayim Gavaleinu La 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 manayim galei. Ay, Ashenu. Ay, manayim galei. Shachre.